For those of you who don't know, the channel has been on a little bit of a break for the last few weeks because I had gum surgery and my mouth was swollen up and I couldn't speak very well. And that's still an issue, by the way. I'm not back to normal yet, things are still swollen, so if I sound a little weird, that's why. But I couldn't wait anymore. I just got back from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Disaster at Lucasfilm, the Dial of Destroyed Franchises, the Dial of Dunderheaded Disney f***ery, and I can't not make a video on this one because she did it again. Kathleen Kennedy destroyed another one. And it's not like I wasn't expecting it, but Jesus Christ. Star Wars, Willow, Indiana Jones, every single time, every single IP this woman touches turns to garbage! The only upside now, I guess, is that I'm pretty sure Kathy has finally run out of beloved Lucasfilm IPs to drag into the flaming dumpster with her at this point. And Bob Iger sure as hell ain't gonna let her sink her claws into anything else under the Disney umbrella. He's got other people to ruin those. I feel like I'm saying this more and more lately, that the show or movie I just watched is the perfect embodiment of everything I hate, everything wrong with the modern entertainment industry. I said it about Peter Pan and Wendy, I said it about Velma, a few other things, but in a way, this movie was worse than all of them, because Dial of Desecrated Male Characters reminded me so much of something I never, ever wanted to think about again. Early in the movie, they almost had me fooled into thinking they might have learned something, because there's a moment that reminded me, this is gonna sound so f***ed up, but it reminded me of The Rise of Palpatine. And The Rise of Palpatine is a very hateable movie. In hindsight, I was way too nice when I reviewed it. But the one thing that redeemed it just a tiny little bit in my eyes is that it obviously hated the film that came before it and bent over backwards to retcon as much of that thing as possible. And for a minute, it kind of looked like they were doing that here. Yeah, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, not a good movie. So if they wanted to just sweep those events under the rug and move away from them, that seems like a good idea on paper, doesn't it? But I very quickly realized, to my horror, that I'd gotten it wrong. It's not The Rise of Palpatine, it's The Last Jedi. Which is so much worse. Because The Last Jedi did the same thing, tried to retcon everything in the previous film, but the reason it sucked so much when that movie did it is that people liked The Force Awakens. Maybe not so much now, but when it came out. Hell, even I liked The Force Awakens back then, because I didn't know yet how it was all gonna come crashing down later. That's what Dial of Dumbass Studio Executives is. It's The Last Jedi of the Indiana Jones series. It's the one that not only tries to retcon the stuff you liked, it tries to ruin your ability to ever enjoy that stuff again. And yeah, Crystal Skull was bad, but in the grand scheme of things, it was kind of forgettable. No one talks about Crystal Skull anymore, and at least the spirit of Indiana Jones was still there. There was nothing franchise-destroying about it. You may not have liked it, but I think if they'd made a good final installment that recaptured the magic of the first three films, they could have recovered. But after this one, no. No, there's no coming back. It's broken now. It can't be fixed anymore. It's done. They Jake Skywalker'd Indy. It's full of feminism, woke politics, obnoxious bullshit characters, and they had no understanding of what made Indiana Jones work. None. There's always been a sense of hope about these movies, a sense of joy, of lighthearted adventure and fun. Sure, Indy would get into tough scrapes, but even at his lowest, there was a little twinkle in his eye, a little wryness, a little excitement, and you knew when he picked up the whip and the John Williams theme hit the soundtrack, that deep down, Indy was enjoying this. This made him feel alive. He was on an amazing adventure, exploring history, fighting the bad guys, discovering lost treasure. It's what Indy was born to do, and by God, he wouldn't have it any other way. In this movie, there's none of that. The light in Indy's eyes has gone out. It's as if James Mangold watched Rian Johnson's character assassination of Luke Skywalker and hit copy-paste. You might as well have had a scene of Indy drinking green space cow cow titty milk because that's where we are now. Indy isn't a fun character anymore. He isn't happy or joyous or adventurous anymore. They did to Indy what they did to Luke. They took a beloved, optimistic, fun, heroic character and turned him into a miserable, broken, defeated old shell of his former self yelling at those damn kids with their music to get off his lawn. Because that's what everybody wants in an Indiana Jones movie, right? Indy's life has turned to shit. His career is finished. No one respects him anymore. His family's gone. He's all alone with nothing but regrets. What the hell is this? There's nothing fun about this. There's no excitement about going on one last adventure. Indy is miserable in this movie. I don't think he even smiles once in the entire fucking thing. And I can't even blame him. If I had to go globe-trotting with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I'd probably want to hang myself too. So I don't know who the hell they think they're fooling with this. Because, yeah, that's not what happens. At the end of this movie, Indy basically wants to die. And he doesn't change his mind and make the decision to go on because this experience with Phoebe Waller-Bridge has reignited the spark inside him that he thought had gone out or anything like that. He doesn't. She makes that decision for him. He's given no agency in that, and then the movie just takes her side because I guess Kathleen Kennedy really wanted her latest self-insert character to punch Indiana Jones in the face. But before I get to her, let's talk about all the other pointless fucking characters. The ones who are only there for diversity points and politics and being the obnoxious ones on the screen when Phoebe Waller-Bridge was on her lunch break. Early on in the film, we find the villain posing as a good guy, and he has several henchmen working for him. A couple white men and one black woman. You already know what I'm gonna say, don't you? Yeah? If you guessed that the white men are dim-witted, gun-toting, trigger-happy thugs, while the black woman is by far the most competent, intelligent one, which the movie is not shy about reminding us of, no shit, Sherlock. She has to tell the white dudes off multiple times. At one point, she even lectures the villain, her boss, and he just sits there like a jackass and takes it. Because if the black female character isn't going to lecture a Nazi, then what's the point of having a black female character? And I don't say that to be a dick. I say it because the movie was obviously asking itself that same question and had no answer. This character was there for two reasons: to check a box and to spit politics in our faces. And I know this because the second she's done those two things, they get rid of her because she literally had no other reason to be there. And it's not the only character they pull this stunt with. They also had to throw in an annoying kid sidekick because every fucking action hero's gotta have one of those now, and he's not even the good kind of annoying like Short Round was. This was the you spend the entire movie wondering why the fuck he's still there and begging the bad guys to shoot him in the head kind of annoying. He does nothing. Nothing. He has no fucking reason to exist for 98% of the movie. He's just some fucking annoying kid who hangs around with Phoebe Waller-Bridge for no reason except that some brain trust behind the scenes thought that she wasn't obnoxious enough on her own. Spoiler, she is. For the entire goddamn movie, the kid is just there. He's this fucking stupid hanger-on that Indy and What's-Her-Face just drag along with them as the bad guys are chasing them, shooting at them, and killing people all around them. They could have ditched him any number of times, but they don't. He just tags along, contributing nothing to the story up until the last 20 godforsaken minutes when it turns out that this street kid, pickpocket, side hustler, whatever, who grew up in a place full of lowlifes and criminals that looks like it's lucky to even have running water, he can fly a plane, because the plot says so. Never flown anything in his life, but he can fly a plane. And wouldn't you know it, Indy and What's-Her-Face just happen to need someone who can fly a plane. So that's what he's there for. Ticking a box, annoying the shit out of the audience for 2.5 straight hours, and he can fly a plane. Nailed it. And God help us, that brings me to Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I don't know if she's number one on the list of albatrosses around this movie's neck, but she's up there. I'm not sure if I have the words to describe how goddamn insufferable this character is, but she's basically all the worst character traits of every Hollywood screenwriter's favorite female archetype right now, all rolled into one. She's unbearably snarky, arrogant, disrespectful, condescending, spends the entire movie treating Indy like crap, undermines him at every turn, and pretty much every other male character, including the villains, by the way. Why the hell did they think anyone would like this character? She's a giant piece of shit! And Phoebe Waller-Bridge leans into this so goddamn hard. You could tell she was just having the time of her life, putting all those men in their place, outsmarting the bad guys, overshadowing Indy, and making the hero of the franchise chase her all over the place like a fucking puppy as she makes his life even more miserable than it already was. And that applies to other characters too. At one point, they're in Morocco or something. They get into trouble and they run into her ex-fiancé, who she dumped in some really embarrassing way that he never got over, and yet he's still a complete simp for her, of course, until she shits on him one time too many and he tries to kill them because it was time for a chase scene. And after that scene, we never see or hear from him again. That character could have been anybody, but it just had to be a dude who, along with ticking yet another box, Phoebe Waller-Bridge could make look like an absolute jackass. Because she can only do that to Indy so many times, I guess. And the part that really drove me up a wall is that the filmmakers clearly thought this was good. She was definitely someone's favorite character. James Mangold, Kathleen Kennedy, maybe both of them, because as far as the film is concerned, she is the most charming person ever, and they have absolutely no idea how eye-gougingly annoying she actually is, and how at every fucking turn, this character blows up in the movie's face. Kathleen Kennedy did an interview the other day where she was talking excitedly about the possibility of Phoebe Waller-Bridge taking over as the new Indiana Jones, and she wasn't kidding. They really thought that was gonna be a thing, because this feels more like her movie a lot of the time, right up to the climax that, I swear, if I hadn't been planning to review the movie, would have made me walk out in disgust. It's basically confirmed now that they rejiggered this movie a lot, shot multiple different endings because they couldn't think of one that wasn't utter dog shit. Well, what I really want to know is how horrifically, catastrophically terrible were those other endings that this was the one they went with. I hated this ending so much you have no idea. I don't know how they could have gotten it so unbelievably wrong, but rather than some big, exciting, fun sequence that has Indy save the day, gives him one last hurrah, and sends the audience home satisfied in an uplifting way in the grand spirit of the franchise, it's almost like they wanted to spit on the franchise instead, because what we end up with is Phoebe Waller-Bridge stealing the spotlight again and trying to talk a miserable, morose, pathetic Indy off the ledge. I'm being metaphorical, but that's basically what this was. Indy giving up, wanting to end it all, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge being all, no, you don't get to do what you say, you do what I say. And then she makes him look like a jackass again. You. Are you kidding me? With all the rewrites you were doing, it never occurred to you that fans of Indiana Jones might not appreciate something like that? And it's obvious there were a shit ton of rewrites and reshoots because things really start going off the rails in the climax. Weird plot holes pop up all over the damn place, everything starts making less and less sense, characters are making really stupid decisions they have no reason to make except that if they don't, then the plot can't happen. This is what you get when you're reshooting and rewriting your movie after the fact. Things inevitably start falling through the cracks, and that goes for the production side of things too. The movie begins with a flashback sequence that goes on for fucking ages, by the way, but this was the closest it came to feeling like a real Indiana Jones movie because it takes place before Phoebe Waller-Bridge was a thing and before Indy had completely given up on himself. Funny how those two things happened around the same time, isn't it? But this flashback almost felt like something from a better movie. There was adventure and no stupid stuff. It could have been something good. There was just one big problem. The de-aging effects on Indy's face are not terrible. I've seen better, and there were a few moments where his lips didn't quite match the dialogue coming out of his mouth, but it looked passable enough. And if he hadn't said anything, it would have been alright. But then he starts talking, and you realize that they forgot to de-age his voice, because some dumbass didn't realize that people's voices change as they get older. So that means you've got a young-looking Indy who sounds like fucking 80-year-old Indy. It doesn't matter how good the effects are at that point. It breaks the illusion instantly, and then all you can see is old Indy with a badly CG'd face. You can't get past it. How the hell did no one notice how fucking awkward this was? This was terrible! In other words, the movie begins the same way it ends, taking a once great franchise and character, dousing them with gasoline, and burning them to the ground. This movie is an absolute disaster. Imagine going to a funeral for a beloved family member with James Mangold giving the eulogy where he forgets the dead person's name, and you're seated next to Kathleen Kennedy, who spends the entire ceremony watching silly cat videos on her phone because she couldn't care less. That's what this felt like. It's soulless, joyless, depressing as hell. There's no sense of fun. All the jokes fall flat. It's entirely too fucking long. Indy has been changed from an awesome, badass hero who went on fun, crazy adventures and did lots of cool shit to a sad, beaten down husk who complains about all the injuries he's had, never smiles once, gets led around and overshadowed by the most obnoxious person in the movie, and even at the very end, can't shake the feeling that he's been defeated, if not by life, then certainly by the studio, which, for reasons I'll never understand, is still run by a clown car driving cultural arsonist who thinks the ruination of all our classic film heroes and franchises is what moviegoers want to see!
Why does everything you touch turn to garbage?
For Christ's sake! With all the different endings they shot for this thing, they couldn't find one that didn't make you feel like crap when the credits rolled? There's nothing uplifting about it. It's just tired and sad and melancholy, and that's not Indiana Jones. Even Crystal Skull, as bad as it was able to get that right at least. This was so depressing. All they had to do with Indiana Jones was leave it alone. But Kathleen Kennedy just couldn't resist. You would think all her countless failures that turned Star Wars into a raging trash fire would have humbled her a little bit, but apparently not. She just had to keep on f***ing with stuff that didn't need to be f***ed with, and now here we are all over again. Indiana Jones and the dial of 10,000 punches in the dick can kiss my ass. I can't wait for Mission Impossible to hit theaters and crush this movie under its boot like a f***ing turd. If you haven't seen this thing yet, consider yourself lucky. Don't watch it. Save your money, stay home, rewatch the original 3 films, forget Dial of a Devastated Fandom ever existed, and call it a day. This movie, Kathleen Kennedy. Let's get out of here. Thanks so much for watching, and while you're here, do all the other YouTube things. Ding that bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. The links are down there. And most importantly, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, subscribe, and make sure you're still subscribed, because what really deserves to be undermined, condescended to, and treated like garbage by Phoebe Waller-Bridge for 2.5 ungodly hours that they'll never get back is the YouTube algorithm. That's all for now, but I'll be back with more soon, hopefully with a video about something a lot less painful than this was. Take care, stay tuned, I'll see you later.